What's up, guys? So back at it again with another episode. Today what we've got planned is deleting four-wheel steering from GK Tech. So let's show you what I got. Okay, so back in the kitchen again to show you what I got. This is from GK Tech. I'm not really sure where they're located. I think this one came from San Francisco. I'm not really sure. I kind of remember them being in the United Kingdom. But let's just get right into it. Got some bolts and stuff. It's really simple. This is literally, that's all in the box, is this. And this is the HICAS lockout bar, or four-wheel steering delete, whatever you want to call this. And I'll explain what HICAS is and all that nonsense. Now, if you don't know what HICAS is, basically HICAS was Nissan's answer to everybody trying out four-wheel steering. You may remember this from some of the early Preludes. I think they were one of the first ones to have four-wheel steering. And then came the R32 and the Attesta system with the GTRs, which kind of trickled down into the GTSs, which is what I have. And basically the GTSs, GTSTs, GTS4s, anything on the R chassis has HICAS usually. I've never seen it without it. I'm not sure if the really base models do or do not have it. Basically though, it is hydraulically controlled with power steering fluid. There's two lines that run the whole length of the car back to the rear differential. And these go out to your tie rods. And basically all it is fluid adjusts your tie rods and your tire with toe about a degree. So about half a degree negative, half a degree positive, for a total of 1 degree. And it actually adjusts itself and turns as you counter steer or steer with the car. This is really cool, and in the late 80s, early 90s, as time goes on, it kind of got outdated. It did go to an electronic system in the R33. I do not know if the R34s had it or not. All I know is the R32s are the only ones with the hydraulic system. This is also found in 240SXs in America. I believe some of the 180s in Japan also had HICAS. So I believe it's the same exact system, same exact bar. So this should cross over to all those other vehicles as well. Enough talking about it. Let's get out in the garage and throw this on. I've already got the car up on jack stands. I've already got the car's wheels off. I believe you only have to kind of jack up the back to get to this, but we'll see. All right, so we're out in the garage finally. Basically, I've got the car up on jack stands here. The bar we're going to be replacing is this unit right here. You can see the two lines going up. I'll be in more detail once I get underneath the car. But basically, first off, we're going to have to remove the tie rods and the tie rod ends from the bar so we can transfer it over to the lockout bar. Okay, so I've taken the tie rod ends off. Where'd they go? Taking the tie rods end off the end of the knuckle here. I did break these loose off camera, so I'm actually going to drop the bar with the tie rod still attached so that I can try my best to measure it up to the new lockout bar. You're probably going to need an alignment anyways after this, but this gives it a good general idea so you don't ruin your tires even getting to the alignment shop in the first place. But to get the HICAS system out, it's just going to be these two 19mm bolts. So we're going to have to break those loose. Now that I've broken these two nuts loose holding the HICAS unit on, I'm going to remove these power steering lines that feed the fluid to the HICAS unit. That'll be so as soon as I get these bolts out, I can drop the whole unit as a whole piece. Alright guys, so I've got the old system out here. Here's the old Nissan system. As you can see, it has plugs for power steering. It's got 2 bleeders on it. Basically, it just pushes your tie rods either direction to basically, depending on where the steering wheel is at. It's got a whole computer system that's pretty complicated. Basically, I didn't take some of the stuff off. I didn't mess with any of the adjustments on like the tie rods. I wanted to pull it out and see if the GK Tech one was about the same length, and it looks basically identical. So I should be able to just take the outer tie rods and throw them on this, and then the inner tie rods. I should be able to just I should be able to just unscrew the inner tie rods and just screw them into this, throw the whole thing back up in the car, and that should basically be it. I mean, this is a really simple one. It seems to me that they also gave you I would call that like a hydraulic plug, something like that. So I think I'm just going to plug up the 2 lines that were back there, and that allows me to not have to deal with any of the rest of the system. I can leave all the lines in. I can leave the reservoir system thing up front, because if you get the cheaper one where it just comes just with the bar, you actually have to go up here and delete this whole entire system in here and loop it. And then you have to pull the power steering pump out and take fins out. It's a lot of work. Yeah, you're gonna lose some weight, but I'm also trying to keep this car as reversible as possible. So later down the road, if I want to sell it or restore it or bring it back to factory spec, I am able to, and I'm able to do that correctly without having to unmodify stuff that shouldn't have been modified in the first place. But anyways, I'm going to end up swapping over these tie rods onto that bar. And yeah, I know I need new tie rods. Like, these things are pretty shot, but I don't have them right now, and I do want to drive my car. So for now, I'm going to throw it back on and go with the flow. Alright guys, so I just finally got that tie rod, the inner tie rods off the HICAS rack. I'm going to show you what I had to do. I did not think I would even get it, so I didn't even actually film it. I was afraid I'd have to take it to a shop, but I actually finally got both of them broke loose. So stupid, like, I'll have to show you this right now. Alright, so this is the image of a war zone. Basically what happened here is I ended up having to put the whole HICAS unit back on the car. No big deal, it's only 2 bolts. And I had to hold that tie rod while I broke this one loose, which is great. So that meant I got one inner tie rod off. But for the other one, because this inner piece right here, see if that focuses, maybe. This inner piece here actually spins with the other side as well. So as you spun the tie rod to break it loose, it actually spun the other side as well. So there's no way to break it loose without holding onto the other end. But because the other tie rod was already off, there was nothing to hold on to. So what I had to do was I ended up taking this little piece out, which is like, it goes in here at the end. I think it's broken now, honestly. But basically it was in there. Took that out. That gave me, as you can see here, a little bit extra room. See if that focuses. As you can see, this is really chewed up because I had to use, like, I did use a wrench on it. It was a 17. But because it's open-ended, it started to strip it, so I ended up having to use a vice grip, and it's actually ovaled it. So this is kind of useless anymore, but that's not too big of a deal. I don't really care about it. But I had to hold this with a vice grip, and then I had this huge wrench on the other tie rod trying to break it loose. And I probably struggled it for a solid hour and a half. all together, just trying to figure out what's going on, what's spinning, what's not, what can I take apart. But I finally got it off. Sorry I didn't film it, but I will film setting up the new lockout bar, which should be pretty simple. So yeah, let's just get right into it. By the way, if you guys ever see me doing something wrong, don't be afraid to call it out. I'm always learning. Obviously, I'm not a top tier mechanic, but if you see something wrong and you want to help me, give me tips so I can do it better next time, then I really appreciate that. I'm gonna go ahead and plug up the factory lines. GK Tech gives you, which I didn't even know they were gonna give me these, but they're basically like little plugs for hydraulic lines. I use these at work a lot. So basically this goes in here, like this, and then that goes up in that line. It's actually the other way. It goes in there like this, and that goes up in that line, and you screw this on, and that stops the fluid from going anywhere. I'll try and set that up so I can demonstrate it a little better. Okay, so here is that, the factory lines here. Here is one of those little plugs. Simply it just goes right in there like that, and then you take your nut that they supply, stick it over top, and screw it on. Of course, you're gonna have to tighten these up pretty good, but there you go. There's one line plug. This makes it so that you don't have to delete the whole entire system. It's always reversible. It's actually pretty easy to put back on if I would need to. So I'm actually really happy with that. But I'm gonna go ahead and tighten these up and get these plugs on so we don't have to deal with that later. But here is your GK Tech lockout bar, which is actually just like, I think I already showed you guys in the box, but it's like super simple design. And this does not have a part that spins, unlike the HICAS. So these are not drilled all the way through, they're just solid. So they're both standard thread, they're both right hand thread. Just super simple, super easy. So let's put in this would be the driver's side on a right hand drive car. I know we're in the US, so I have to kind of clarify that. Let me move the camera real quick so you guys can see this a little bit better. Okay, so this is the passenger side. This is the end of the GK Tech lockout bar. And I actually just noticed something which is kind of weird. This one's ovaled, and this other hole for the bolt is perfectly circle. Not really sure the reason for that. It might just be a mistake, but no big deal, I guess. So we're simply just going to screw in the tie rod into the new lockout bar. I'm not going to put any Loctite on this, honestly, because I think it's tight enough by itself. It's just a rear tie rod, and it really has nowhere to go once it's bolted up on the other side with the cotter man pin. You probably get flack for that. Obviously, I'll tighten that off camera, but now we're just going to repeat the same thing to the other side. Actually, I might be able to get it. Oh, there we go. But, okay, never mind. Alright, that's basically everything to it. I've put everything back together. I'm going to start it up, let it warm up, make sure there's no leaks. Make sure to top off your power steering fluid. If you lose a lot, I only lost a little bit, so I'm just going to top it off real quick. After I check the leaks, of course, don't be wasting good fluid. But if everything turns out pretty good, that's basically it. Obviously, go get alignment. Can't stress that enough. It's like so important when it comes to especially a drift car or anything on a track, street car. Trust me, I've ran some cars with no alignments. I didn't even get an alignment on the Corolla last year, which I probably should have, but it wasn't a very good drift car in the first place, so I just let it go. So let this warm up and check the leaks, and we'll go from there. Also want to mention that if you use the GK Tech's plugins, so like the plugs, I guess, that you would use to plug the factory lines, you do not get a HICAS light on, because it's actually before all the solenoids, so it doesn't sense that anything is wrong. There's just fluid going to it, and it's stopped. That's basically it. Really simple method. If you would delete everything up to the engine bay or any of the solenoids after what I plugged, the HICAS light will come on. If you read up on the forums a little bit, there is a green wire in the trunk. It would be on the right side if you're looking at the trunk from the back. It's kind of the little kick panel, but basically you would just cut that wire, and it would actually like turn off the HICAS light or make it sense that there's nothing wrong. So obviously I didn't have to do that, so I'm not going to really show you how to do that. But yeah, so car's getting warmed up, not seeing any of the leaks, so I'm not really sure where this episode is going to go from there. This might be it. If it is, thanks for watching. Always appreciate it. If not, there might be some drifting or some burnouts. I always like to put a little bit of action in my videos now. I think that's a nice twist, so stay tuned.